Hey everybody, welcome back to Big Wyoming. Today we're going to take a look at the RCBS M500 mechanical scale. So if you're new to reloading, or maybe you've been a reloader for a while, I think a mechanical scale is something that everybody should have. One reason is because gravity doesn't lie. If you keep your scale in good condition, make sure it's tuned up right, it's always going to be the most accurate instrument you have for measuring powder. The second reason would be if someday your electronic scales quit working, you will always be able to reload. So this is a 505 grain capacity scale. I'm going to use this little pointer here. We've got our coarse adjustments, which are every 5 grains, and then on this side you've got a fine adjustment from 0 to 5 grain in 0.1 grain increments. Once this scale is set up, you adjust the 0 by adjusting the foot right here, which is a nice wide steady base, and you've got 3 pointers over here on the side, top, middle, and bottom. The middle is actually your 0, and that's where you're going to set up to 0 your scale. The top can be from 5 to 7 grains, and I'm going to show you how we figure out what your top and bottom arrows represent and how you can kind of fine-tune the scale to get down to a 0.1 grain accuracy. Couple things that you should have with your scale is a Deluxe Checkweight Set. Lyman makes a nice one. I went ahead and get the RCBS, and then also a trickler. So a lot of times what you'll see me do, and what we'll do in this video, is I'm going to use my Chargemaster light. I'm going to set it at a lighter charge, put it on the mechanical scale, and trickle up to right where we want to be. A couple things I like about this scale right off the bat is it's a very solid base scale. It's got a wide base here instead of setting on 2 dog ears like some of the other scales, and then the adjustment foot is wider and it's easier to get a hold of. I can tell you I'm in the process of switching from light green reloading equipment to dark green. If some of you guys want to talk to me about that sometime, I'd be more than happy to. But as Johnny's Reloading Bench says, I'm getting ready to get my RCBS tattoo. And so far, comparing those two scales, I find this RCBS scale more accurate, more superior than the other one. Another reason that is we've done some remodeling in the reloading room, and I actually have this scale up off the bench. We've put some cabinetry on the wall, and then I ran a shelf between the 2 cabinets. So getting this shelf off your bench, away from the vibration, helps quite a bit. So now I'm gonna move the camera around a little bit. We're gonna zoom in on those arrows, and I'm going to show you how to fine-tune this scale so you know what each arrow represents. And then we're gonna throw a couple charges and show you how repeatable it is. So just hold on for a minute. Alright, we're back. I tried to zoom in on those 3 indicators that are on the scale the best I could. Maybe I can do some editing if we need to get in a little closer. We'll see what it looks like once I get it on the computer. So right now the scale is set up to 0. It's got the pan in it. Both the coarse and the fine slider are set over to the 0 slot. And then we can make that adjustment by touching that foot and running the scale up and down. So once you take it out and get it set up, if you run out of adjustment with your 0 foot, you can actually remove the pan hanger and add or remove weight as necessary. So mine came out, it's right in the middle of the adjustment when I get to 0. Another advantage that I didn't mention is getting this scale up at eye level. Helps me with parallax. So when I'm looking right at that 0 setting, I can make sure that the needle is right on, which is something I'm struggling with right now with this camera in the way. But we'll take a look at that. So if I remove the charge pan, we go bottom of the scale. And then we come back up, we'll see how that zeroes out. Again, it looks like I need to adjust my zero. Alright, I like the way that looks a little better. Let's do that one more time. And again, that looks really good. So it just goes back and forth from zero. I've had good repeatability with it. Now let's talk about the upper and lower indicators, those sawtooth arrows that we're looking at. The manual says it can be from 0.5 to 0.7 grains. So what you can do is you can come over here to your fine adjustment. So right there is 0.7 grains. Looks like we're going to end up a little light. So let's move that over one notch. So once that settles out, we're at about, the lower arrow is 0.6 grains. Now if we want to check the upper arrow, what we can do is run our zero down while the weight is applied. And then move our fine adjustment back to zero on the scale. And once again, we're coming in at 0.6 grains. So when I'm throwing powder, I know that if for some reason I hit the upper or lower arrow, that I'm 0.6 grains off. So let's go ahead and bring that back to a zero. That looks pretty good right there. So right now let's throw a couple charges. What I'll do is we'll set up for 60 grains. I have some Reloader 26 in the Charge Master right now, so we'll set it for 60 grains. I'll show you kind of how I do that. So this is going to be a nice easy one. We can go over here to 50, 55, and 60. All of that adjustment can be done using our coarse adjuster. Now what I'll do is I'll take my check weights. I've got a 50 grain check weight right here. And then we'll throw the 10 in there with that. Once that settles out, if I feel like I need to make any adjustments, I'll do it right there. Because I trust these check weights, I'll adjust that scale to where it's pretty zeroed, well, where it is zeroed, but as you can see, it came out right where we wanted it to. So we're going to remove the pan, put our check weights away. So I set up my Chargemaster to throw 59.9. It has a plus or minus 0.1 tolerance, so let's see where that ends up once it gives us the beep. So we can bring that charge up top, set it on the scale, let's see where we are. I can tell you everything is acting out right now because it's on camera, but that's right at 60 grains, so I don't have to trickle up. I'm very happy with that charge. Again, that was 59.9 on my Chargemaster. I did not warm it up before I did this video. You know, I just figured we'd throw and then I'd show you up top what we came to. But if I'm running a ladder test, say a Saturday ladder test, and I want to be absolutely sure of my charges, I'll throw things on the Chargemaster and then I'll verify them on this scale till I get everything loaded. Sometimes if I'm only loading a few things, I've got a dipper over here, I'll use the mechanical scale, and then there are times, you know, when I'm ready for bulk loading, say I found that powder node that gives me 0.1 plus or minus on each side, I'll either throw that powder through a powder dispenser or maybe just go ahead and let the Chargemaster do it. But I think a mechanical scale is a vital part of your reloading bench. So let's go ahead and do a couple more things real quick. So how do we know if we're 0.1 off, how far off we are if we're not centered on the middle sawtooth indicator? So let's just take this back to 0. So our course adjustment's back to 0. Let's see where the scale ends up, if we got to do any more adjustments. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's see what 0.1 grain looks like. So that scale settled out, so 0.1 grain actually puts me kind of at the bottom corner of the middle sawtooth. I don't know if you can see that or not. So if you're within the sawtooth but you're not right on your pointer, then you're most likely 0.1 grain light or 0.1 grain heavy. Let's go ahead and replace that to 0. Now I don't know if I mentioned it before, but a trickler is definitely something you want to have. I'll throw charges light, I'll trickle up to the exactness. So let's that scale settle out. Again, I've got Reloader 26 in here. It's an extruded powder. It's a pretty coarse powder, kind of large. So let's see if I'm able to trickle maybe just 1 grain in here. Nope, that one bounced out. There was 1 grain of powder. And I think you could see a little scale deflection on that. Let's try one more. So we got 2 grains sitting in the pan. I think each time you can see a small scale deflection on that. So it is a sensitive scale. There's 1 more grain in the pan. So overall, I'm really pleased with this scale. Just to review, based on what I had before, it's more stable, doesn't move around the bench as much. The adjustment is easier. Based on the one I had before, the adjustment for zero was below the beam, so you're always kind of bouncing the beam every time you adjust it to zero. This one has a nice large footprint out here, a knob that's easy to get to. I found it to be very repeatable, very accurate. Part of that is getting it off the bench. I've got it on a shelf, connected to some cabinetry that's very solid. That makes a big difference. So once again, I think a mechanical scale is a must-have for every reloader. It'll keep you going. If you ever are not with electricity, you can't power your scales, maybe you run out of batteries, whatever happens, and I really go back to that gravity doesn't lie. I think this will be one of the most accurate scales that you can have. Get you a good set of check weights to go with it, and I think you're set. So we'll continue to do some more of these RCBS reviews. I've got a lot of other equipment that I've switched over. I've talked about the Charge Master and the powder throw. I've used the powder throw. Here's a little spoiler alert. Very repeatable. Been very happy with it so far. So tune in for more of these coming up. Tune in for the reloading series that we got going on. There's almost too much to do. That's why we've been a little slow getting stuff out. Thank you for your continued support. Like, subscribe. God bless, and we'll see you on the other side.